So the impact of a word, what does that mean? And as it says here, so analyze how specific choices shape meaning and tone. Analyze the impact of specific words, phrases, or figurative language in text with a focus on an author's intent to convey information or construct an argument. So this is something that we've played around with on some other lessons, particularly when it comes to things like point of view, right? We think about the word choice being significant in understanding someone's opinion, right? Is it what kind of language are they using? Are they using very strong language to support or oppose an opinion or something like that? And that's sort of what we're looking at today in a little more depth, because not just with identifying somebody else's writing, but word choice for you is going to be really important when it comes to writing and things like that. And as we know, by this point, what we've seen in class are so many different words that in some way mean the same thing, but a lot of times will offer sort of a different connotation, right? Remember that. So just because they have a very similar definition, your word choice in a situation may be really important. So we talked about the tragedy of the Challenger explosion when we were doing the social studies thing, right? Tragedy and crisis are closely related words, but a crisis has a different connotation. It has a slightly different meaning. So the way you would use those two words are really important. So let's take a look at our lesson.
Hey, I want to talk to you about the impact of a word. The words a writer chooses are important. By looking closely at a writer's words, you can better understand the writer's message and point of view.
Yep. I've also noticed that we see Dwayne less and less as the lessons go on. We saw Dwayne a lot in social studies at the beginning and language arts here and there, but the farther we go, it seems like the
It
less we
seems to
see
me
him,
the way you say something is
which
important.
isn't bad.
I remember one time I got into an argument with my cousin about college. He didn't think college was a good idea, but I want to learn about business, and I realized that I couldn't just figure everything out on my own. Well, it got pretty heated. He wasn't hearing what I was saying, and I wasn't having any of his naysaying. When I thought about it, what really got me was the words he was using. College is for suckers, he said. It's a scam. Words like suckers and scam pack a punch. It felt like he was calling me stupid for wanting to go to college, and that's not right. The words he chose communicated a tone, a bitter and critical tone. It got me thinking about why he felt that way, because his argument wasn't really criticizing me. I just asked him straight up, how come colleges make you so bitter? That's when we really got to talking about his older brother's huge student loans. My cousin might never change his mind, but I realized that I've got to think of college as an investment. If I'm spending money, I want it to be a good investment in the right program, so I'll make a profit from what I spend. But my point is, my cousin's word choice really changed the meaning and the tone of what he said. Whenever I read, I pay attention to the words the writer uses. Why choose those words? How does it change what the writer is saying? It helps me understand better, just like with my cousin. Here, let me show you what I mean.
All right, let's take a look here.
Word choice makes a big difference, and it doesn't matter whether you're arguing with a friend or writing a book. So if you want to really understand what you're reading, it helps to slow down and look at individual words. What do they mean? And not just on the surface. Why that particular word? What are all the ways it adds meaning? So I started out by looking for words that seem important. Take a look at these sentences. What are some interesting or important words? I want to read closely and consider what words the writer is using. The word ample is interesting. How about the phrase break their boots in? I like that one. And the word metal at the end. You could choose different words. It all depends on what seems interesting and important to you. Next, look at the definition of the word. Now, I don't want to look at just the basic meaning of the word, so I look at the denotation. That's the dictionary definition. And the connotation. The word ample means enough or more than enough. That's the denotation. So what's the connotation? Why say ample? What does ample make you think of? Where else have you heard that word? What does it sound like? Well, I feel like it's an unusual word, so it sounds more unique than enough or a lot. That makes it kind of appealing. It makes me think of something comforting too, like a big dinner with lots of mashed potato or a big chair that you could curl up in. So it makes the wilderness seem big and inviting and unique. Yeah, I can see that. I've also seen that phrase ample opportunity before. So those words sound like they go together. And maybe the writer chose them together. I think of opportunity as something good and exciting, like a job offer. You might think of other connotations, but I think you can definitely say that the writer wants to show something big and good. That makes sense. You can take any word and think of its meaning and come up with an idea of why the writer chose it.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example, right? Ample meaning enough or more than enough, right? It's not an excess, but it's more than enough. So, if I had said, those new to wilderness travel have sufficient opportunity to break their boots in slowly, right? That sounds more economical, right? Okay, sufficient. So, if you're adventurous, maybe sufficient isn't quite enough. And it's also, you don't want to sound too dramatic, right? And ample is a good moderate sort of idea there, where it's explaining, more than enough. If I said something like, oh, be something that's ample, like, gigantic opportunity or humongous opportunity or something like that, it would sound a little silly, and it might sound a little too dramatic. Let's see what our
Okay,
first question
take a
is
look
here.
at one of those other words in the passage. Why does the author use the word metal in the last paragraph?
Okay, so let's read our paragraphs here real quick. So hiking, so things to do in Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado. Hiking. Rocky Mountain National Park has 355 miles of hiking trails. They range from flat lakeside strolls to steep mountain peak climbs. If you are new to the park, consult with rangers at visitor centers or the wilderness office. They can provide advice about trails which are appropriate to different fitness and experience levels. Wildlife watching. Whether it be bighorn, elk, mule deer, or other wildlife, Rocky visitors have a passion for viewing wild animals, especially the big ones. A winter elk herd numbering between 200 to 600, about 350 bighorn sheep, and numerous mule deer call the park home. The park's great large animal population makes it one of the country's top wildlife watching destinations. Here at Rocky, you can find 60 species of mammals, 280 recorded bird species, 11 species of fish, and countless insects, including a surprisingly large number of butterflies. Wilderness camping. A wide range of wilderness camping experiences are available in Rocky. Those new to wilderness travel have ample opportunity to break their boots in slowly, while those with many miles under their belts can find new areas that test their mettle. Overnight travel in the wilderness requires a permit. Permits and information are available at 2 wilderness offices in Rocky Mountain National Park. So there's that word we're looking for, right? And just a little context around there. So those new to wilderness travel have ample opportunity to break their boots in slowly, while those with many miles under their belts can find new areas that test their mettle. So that word in this context, why does the author use the word metal in the last paragraph? To show hikers are spirited and determined, right? Testing your mettle, your spirit, and your determination.
Great job. The word metal means strength of spirit or determination. It has positive connotations. It shows that the hikers are spirited and determined.
And that's the thing too, with a lot of your word choice. It might encompass more than just one word. So if I just said to, test the hiker's spirit, maybe that doesn't quite encompass everything that I want to say about those trails. Or vice versa, if I just said test their determination. But a word like metal, right, it kind of encompasses both of those terms, just like ample is enough or more than enough, right? So it kind of makes sure that it encompasses everything that you want. Let's keep going.
Now, once I've got an idea of what a word means, I compare it to other similar words. That really puts it into perspective why the writer chose one particular word. What would happen if you replace it with a different word? How would it affect the meaning or the tone? So, if I look at the word ample again, how would it change the meaning or the tone if it said more than adequate? They have more than adequate opportunity to break their boots in. Well, that sounds kind of snooty to me and more formal. So it changes the tone. Somehow it doesn't sound as large an amount as ample. So it changes the meaning a little bit too.
Just like sufficient.
What if it said lavish? That doesn't seem quite right, does it? They have lavish opportunity to break their boots in. The word lavish sounds rich and pampered, like a casino or a hotel instead of a forest hike. So it changes the connotation and the tone a little bit. Now, how about enough? They have enough opportunity to break their boots in. That sounds like just enough and no more. So it doesn't sound as good. It changes the meaning. If you think about it, I bet you can tell how a similar word would change the meaning or tone of what you read.
Yeah. So this, as we were saying, it's all about word choice. And he's already finished. Okay, so let's keep going.
Read the passage. What would be the effect of replacing the word metal with the word courage?
Okay, so we read the passage. If we look just at that bottom, so we'll just change the word metal, right? So right here, if we said those new to wilderness travel have ample opportunity to break their boots in slowly, while those with many miles under their belts can find new areas that test their courage. It's a little different, right? So it makes the hike seem more dangerous than metal, right? Test their courage. Or are they going to find mountain lions on there, instead of just, a steep hill? And that's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to word choice. So similar in definition, perhaps, but the connotation is so different as well. If I'm a hiker, right, and I'm reading this advertisement or this information on a website about the hikes, and I see test your courage, I might be a great hiker. I might be really fit and love to hike, but maybe I'm not up to, fighting off mountain lions and bears, which sort of, is kind of implied there. Courage sounds more life risking, right? Dangerous. So it makes the hike seem more dangerous.
Great job. Something that tests your mettle is challenging, and so is something that tests your courage. But testing your courage seems more dangerous, like you have more to be afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. Testing my spirit and determination, as opposed to maybe testing my what was that?
Bear wrangling skills.
Bear wrangling skills, my wife says, which is definitely a potential in Rocky Mountain National Park, I believe. Or your survival skills,
So
testing your
what
survival
thing
skills.
does word
like
choice
courage.
affect? I've talked about meaning and tone a little bit, and I want to add a third thing: argument. If you're making an argument, like my cousin, your word choice makes a difference. So how does word choice affect meaning, tone, and argument? Take a look at this paragraph. It's part of an argument against going to college. See how the writer uses the word wasteful and late. How does that affect meaning, tone, and argument? Let's look at meaning. Being wasteful and late are both negative ideas, so the writer is building a case for college being bad by pointing out problems. The word late implies that you're doing one thing when you should have been showing up for something else. Add that to wasteful, and the writer seems to be saying that college isn't adding anything worthwhile, that you're not getting anything for your time. I don't think that's fair, but that's what the writer seems to think. What about tone? That's the writer's attitude. A word like wasteful is pretty strong and critical, and the word late is critical too. I'd say these words add up to a critical, argumentative tone. Now let's talk about argument. That's related to meaning. The writer's building up an argument that college isn't worthwhile. To make that argument, they don't only have to say that you could be doing something valuable that's not college with your time. The writer has to show that college is less valuable than whatever else you'd be doing. By using words like wasteful and late, the writer is putting down the value of college, so they can claim that whatever job you're doing is more valuable. I think you'd have to take a close look at what you might be getting out of college to evaluate that. Can you see how word choice affects meaning, tone, and argument? If you pay attention, you can tell a lot about what you read from the word choice.
And here's, the thing too, if you're creating an argument, you want to be careful, because if your tone is too aggressive, it will affect, the seriousness. People may take you less serious if you're using bombastic words, right? If you're speaking in hyperbole, right? We talked about that, like it's very exaggerated. You want to stay grounded, even if it's something that you really feel strongly about. You want to be careful that you don't sort of overplay your hand when it comes to the tone that you're using and you're taking in an argument. And that's something else that we talked about when it comes to point of view, right? It's very obvious. You obviously you're going to tip your hand to the opinion you're making and your point of view, right? You want to express that, but you don't want it to take away from the points that you're making, the effect that you're trying to have overall, by using words that's too strong, too aggressive. But again, on the same side, you don't want to be too weak. You want to have a nice, strong, concise idea that you present, but not one that either people are confused about the point you're taking, or people can't take you seriously because you're being too bombastic.
Read the passage. In the section, College, a Good Investment, how does the word grave affect the argument?
Okay, so we'll take a look here. We'll probably get a good idea. So college, is it worthwhile? The following two opposing arguments ask the question, with today's cost, is a college education worthwhile? I want to point this out before we read it. This is sort of a good example of what your writing response prompts may look like. The idea there is that you'll be presented with sort of two opinions on a subject, and then it's up to you to support one or the other based on their overall effectiveness, their evidence, their rhetoric, all of that. So it's just some kind of, think about that down the road here. And some of that will be, the language that they use and the tone that they take. So looking first, college, a good investment. Going to college opens doors to future employment and earnings. Anyone who wants a college degree should consider the costs and choose a degree program wisely. However, considering only costs and not benefits is a grave mistake. One thing is clear, college graduates earn more money. In fact, college graduates earn significantly more money, almost double high school graduates. The U.S. Census Bureau report, Educational Attainment in the United States, 2016, shows that workers who are 18 years old or older with a high school diploma earned a mean of 35,615 in 2015. Those with a bachelor's degree earned a mean of 65,482 in the same year. That's a difference of nearly 30,000 in increased income a year. Over a career, that's more than enough profit to justify a student loan. Not every person who gets a college degree will earn more money, and sometimes it will take time to start earning. However, the earning potential of a college degree is undeniable, and careful consideration of costs and career choice can put a student on the right path. A college diploma is worth both the time and the money. Now, our flip over here, college is unnecessary. What do Bill Gates, Walt Disney, Ellen DeGeneres, and Wolfgang Puck have in common? None of these wealthy, respected, and famous people earned a college diploma. Clearly, the time and expense of college isn't necessary for success. College loans are overwhelming. The cost of college has risen astronomically. From 1986 to 2016, college costs more than doubled. Meanwhile, income only rose about 10% or around 10%. Massive costs leave new college graduates tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Meanwhile, according to the Economic Policy Institute in 2013, 8.8% of recent college graduates were unemployed and 18.3% were underemployed. More than 1 in 4 young college graduates burdened with student loans are not benefiting from it. In addition, the time you spend in college is time you're not working. It takes time to build your career. And after 4 wasteful years in college, you're 4 years late getting started. The time and expense of college isn't worth it. Probably written by someone who went to college. But anyway, so in college, a good investment, how does the word grave affect the argument? So looking at the first passage there, it's implying, or the opposing argument has serious negative consequences. Grave, right? A grave result. The opposing argument has serious negative consequences.
Great job. The writer says that not considering the benefits of college is a grave mistake. It implies that the opposing article against college has serious consequences.
Yeah, that's it, right? So, and of course, like we're talking about, there's other words, particularly when we're talking about adjectives and adverbs, is where word choice is often really important, right? A grave mistake. Benefits of college is, if you just said mistake, maybe that's not enough emphasis. If you'd said, a slight mistake, right? That's not enough emphasis either. But he could have said a like incorrectable mistake. If you'd said something like that, maybe that would be a little too aggressive, a little too over the top. And got our 8.
Hey, good work on the
practice questions. Why don't you guys go ahead, take about 10 minutes there to go through our practice questions. I'll pause the recording. I'll resume our recording. And here we go. So here we have a new passage, and just take a look here where we find the word quibble. Where was that? So choose fill was score quibble. Go through a quick read then. Choosing a college major is an important decision since it will affect the types of jobs you take in the course of your career. The following essays explain different positions on how you should choose a major. Choose the field that you love. How should you choose a college major? It is important to choose a field of study that you love, because to work and be a success, you must love what you do. A career you enjoy will help you fly high. Statistics show that college students overall earn more money than those without a college degree, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2017. Those with any bachelor's degree earn on average 337 per week more than those with associate degrees and 461 per week more than those with high school diplomas only. Obviously, college degrees as a whole earn you more money. Why quibble over which degree earns more and which earns less? If you have passion for a topic, you will do well in that career. If you major in a field just for money, you will find it more difficult. So quibble implies the difference in degrees is not important, right? Yeah, small argument, right? If you're quibbling about something, it's minor. If you're fighting about something, it sounds a little more aggressive. And then choose a field that pays. What would be the effect of replacing the word risen with soared? So choosing a career needs to be about money. Now more than ever, the cost of college has risen almost twice the amount of inflation since the 1980s. The average cost for 4 years of college, according to a 2018 article on the Forbes website, is $104,480. For an investment of thousands of dollars, you should expect to receive a payoff. Choose a career that pays well, and you will gain a reward. According to the Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce, STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are the highest paying. Students in these fields make an average of $65,000 or more per year over their career. STEM majors are a good choice. Other majors do not do as well. Early childhood education is the lowest earning, making only about $39,000 per year on average. That's 60% of the earnings of a STEM major. Choose a major you enjoy, but there are many majors to choose from. Most people enjoy a variety of things. Choose something that will also pay you well. So, using risen with soared, or replacing risen with soared, would emphasize that costs are much higher, right? Soared gives you an impression that are really, well, I was getting ready to use another word, skyrocketed. That's another word we often hear when something skyrocketing prices, skyrocketing price of gasoline from a month ago. It's actually started to come down, right? So soar means to fly. Rise just is to go up. Okay, so here, follow the paths where ancient native people and pioneers walked. Gaze up at massive sandstone cliffs or cliffs of cream, pink, and red that soar into a brilliant blue sky. Experience wilderness in a narrow slot canyon. Zion's unique array of plants and animals will enchant you as you absorb the rich history of the past and enjoy the excitement of present-day adventures. So, how does that affect the tone? It's more awe-filled, right? It's more inspiring and positive.
Hey, perfect. You got all the first.
And then in this section on wilderness information, what is the best connotation of the word spectacular? So we'll read all the rest of here. Wilderness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit. Edward Abbey. The Zion Wilderness is a spectacular network of colorful canyons, forests, and mesas, and striking deserts. In 2009, over 124,000 acres of Zion National Park was designated as wilderness. This designation will ensure that 84% of the park will continue to be a place where nature and its community of life are untrammeled by man, a place where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. The connotation of spectacular, right, is the park is large and dramatic. Right here. Yeah, big and wonderful implies that the park is large and dramatic. In the first paragraph, what would be the effect of replacing gaze up at with behold. So right here, if we said, behold, at massive sandstone cliffs of cream, pink, and red that soar into a brilliant blue sky. That is a little old fashioned, right? Maybe that's the other thing with word choice, right? Is make sure it's contemporary. If we use something that's too out of date, it's going to sound a little funny. So it might kind of, in this case, it sort of has the same connotation, it has the same tone, but it just doesn't fit as well as something as gaze up. Yeah, a little less formal with gaze than
Hey,
behold.
Matt,
Yeah.
does that also have been ancient too? Because ancient is old.
Well, in that case, let's see, is that the same? We're looking at a different passage here. Ancient is a little more general, I think. So yeah, a little bit, but it depends on the context as well there. So here, you know, it's I think the real thing about it is words that are less popular today than used to be. So ancient is a word that we still use, you know, regularly, but behold is something that, you know, just is not used as much as it was maybe a century ago. All right. And then choose to fill your love. So back to the college, right, arguments here. The metaphor fly high, how does that affect the author's argument in the passage? So if you love your career, you're going to do well, right? That is what he is emphasizing there. You know, fly high. The old slogan for the Air Force, I don't think they use it anymore, was aim high. Air Force, right? So you're setting your goals and standards high. Okay, and in choose the field that you love, what would be the effect of replacing the word obviously with the word supposedly, right? So then it's making the data seem questionable, right? Obviously is much more stronger, self-evident, right? If you say it axiomatic, it's, you know, that's all obvious, where supposedly you could question it. So make it seem questionable. And then how does the word payoff affect the author's meaning? So it's emphasizing that you should get a large reward. Yeah, all right, that's the payoff. And it's a little less formal too, but you know, it is indicating that there is a large reward there. So let's see what Curtis
Words are
says.
right at the center of communication. You know what I mean? There's so many words and they have complicated meanings. So when a writer chooses a word, it's like choosing a color to paint the wall. You know how you go to the paint store and there are all these color chips in 100 shades of blue and green? There's so many different words with different shades of meaning. There's not just walk. There's wander, ample, saunter, stride, glide, troop, stroll, or ramble. They all mean something a little different. Pay attention to the word when you read. You'll get the writer's ideas and point of view better.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. You know, your word choice is just like a color palette. And if we say, if we're talking about blue, you know, we might automatically know a difference between navy or sky, right? Those are two distinct colors. And it's the same thing with your word choice. It gives a much more accurate description of what you're talking about. And to the reader, you know, it implies a certain message. So let's see here. I'll stop sharing. So any questions on the impact of a word, sort of using word choice and thinking about what what words you're going to use? but it's just as important, not just for your word choice. And I'll finish with this here. Again, thinking about the words others use when it comes to understanding the general meaning, or not actually the more comprehensive meaning of something that somebody is writing. So a really important lesson when it comes to later on talking about your written response and analyzing the words that someone chooses is really important. And it makes a big difference. They're subtle sometimes, but they really can impact an overall writing. So any questions at all? Okay, in that case, we'll do social studies. We'll finish up our practice